hearing open to the public. And that's your motion, Mr. Waters?
Yes.
Okay. And why? Why is that?
Well, I mean, one, I think that it should be done is just that he's invited the public, and in the past he's misrepresented details, a lot of them, to make it seem like I've just been frivolously filing complaints against him. And so I just, I wanted the public to actually, know that it wasn't frivolous. And also, there was a couple people that actually wanted to go, and they traveled a good distance, because I said, since he was inviting people, a lot of them, to make it seem like.
Okay, I'll let you look at that, Mr. Kearney. But before we do that, I have a motion to make the show cause hearing open to the public. And that's your motion, Mr. Waters?
Yes.
Okay. And why? Why is that?
Well, I mean, one, I think that it should be done is just that he's invited the public, and in the past he's misrepresented details, a lot of them, to make it seem like I've just been frivolously filing complaints against him. And so I just, I wanted the public to actually, know that it wasn't frivolous. And also, there was a couple people that actually wanted to go, and they traveled a good distance, because I said, since he was inviting people, then I figured it was more likely than not that I'd be able to get them in, and I thought it was good support, so that he couldn't harass me again.
Okay. Typically, show cause hearings are closed to the public unless there's some public interest that greatly outweighs the right of the defendant to have a closed hearing before any kind of probable cause is found if they're accused of a crime. So what is the public interest that greatly outweighs the presumption that these should be closed hearings?
Well, just so that the public knows the truth, just in that he, well, one is that it's, I don't have the motion in front of me, but he, like, he's already shared all the details about the case. We had the other hearing was on September 25th, and he spent probably 40 minutes talking about what happened, and he showed the exhibits, but he's just said a lot of lies. So I just think the public should know the truth, and that what really happened, rather than, because he's just going to say that everything that we did was a waste of time, and that you guys.
Well, if probable cause is found and it goes to a criminal complaint, all of it becomes public. So I guess then we know that the public is entitled to look at that because an actual crime occurred. If nothing goes forward from here, why should the public know that it wasn't frivolous, in your words, if no complaint is issued? That means that there wasn't enough to go forward, and that's the whole point of keeping these private.
Yeah, on the second page of Eagle Tribune, or second page of the motion, I cite Eagle Tribune, I guess probably Supra, and they end up touching on that subject of saying that, if a complaint is not issued, then the public should know whether justice was fairly done.
We know there was a case this year, Boston Globe versus the trial court.
I do know, actually, yes.
In which the SJC said that these are not open to the public, so.
Not presumably. They still understand there is limited circumstances when they can be made public.
What do you say about this motion, Mr.
I don't object. Could I just have a pen and paper by any chance? Is that?
You don't object to?
It's going to be open to the public. I don't care. I mean, should I not?
I can't tell you whether it should or shouldn't. I'm just concerned. You have a bunch of people with you. You have someone with you, and in the interest of justice, I don't want this to turn into some kind of a circus with people.
I understand that. I don't want to.
Here's what I'll do, Mr. Waters. I will allow the records and the recording to be public after today.
Okay.
Regardless of what happens. But I'm not letting people in to be in the peanut gallery and make faces. Okay, because I kind of have gleaned what this is all about, and I just don't think that there's any interest in having them in here while we have the hearing. We have to have some decorum. I want to hear from you. No interruptions from Mr. Kearney. I'll hear from Mr. Kearney, and I'll either make my decision or I'll take it under advisement. But I don't think we need to have your friends here for support in the courtroom. I don't think that
necessary
provides any issue. After this is over, if Mr. Kearney says he doesn't care, the records can be open to the public if that's what you both want. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to have an orderly hearing and so we can get to the bottom of it. Okay? All right. So it's allowed, it's limited. You want to read the affidavit?
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you read that.
Actually, I don't have the exhibits either. I have a couple of them, but I was missing the...
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. The exhibits that you attached to your application? I
Yeah.
have these?
Yeah. I had two of them, but there was one of them that I failed to... So I was just saying so that he could see it too.
Okay. Do you want to look at these, Mr. Kearney?
What was that?
It's screenshots of texts and things
Sure.
that he attached. If you want, you can look at those.
This isn't from me, this email. Oh, okay, all right.
We'll get into that.
All right, all right.
I'll take a look at, just so you know what he's presenting.
Okay. You need them all back?
All set. Filed his application for criminal process.
Yeah, I showed up.
I mean, this isn't from me, this email. Oh, okay, all right.
We'll get into that.
All right, all right.
I'll take a look at, just so you know what he's presenting.
Okay. You need them all back?
All set.
Can I get a copy of that afterwards or no?
Yeah, after you guys can get all the copies you want.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so Mr. Kearney, I don't know if you've been involved in one of these hearings before. This is a probable cause hearing to see whether or not there's enough evidence to go forward with a criminal complaint. Mr. Waters has filed this application. This isn't a trial. You're not going to be found guilty or innocent here today. It's a preliminary hearing just to see whether or not there's enough to go forward. If the case goes forward, you'll get a summons in the mail to come back. The DA's office takes over at that point, and then they decide how to prosecute.
How should I address you?
Mr. Clerk is fine.
Okay.
So I'm going to swear you both in, and we'll hear from Mr. Waters about what he says occurred back on September 25th. That's what we're here for, September 25th, whatever incident you say happened. When you're done, Mr. Waters, I'll hear from Mr. Kearney. I'll give you each a chance to rebut any presented evidence, and then, like I said, I'll either make a decision today or I might take it under advisement. If sometimes these things can be worked out here today, if there's some kind of an agreement, we'll see if that's a possibility. All right? Would you both raise your right hands, please? Swear any testimony you give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I do.
Okay, Mr. Waters, so what happened back on September 25th that caused you to file this application for criminal process?
Yeah, I showed up and, well, you want me to reread what's here or just, basically when I showed up, he seen me looking through the courtroom windows, looking for the courtroom, and he said, "It's over here, bitch boy." And then he ended up saying, "I can't wait to beat your ass in there, and then I'll beat your ass tonight too." And actually when he was, he started saying the woman beating animal killer part. That part I didn't remember every word he said. I felt like he said a couple other words in between, but there was like literal spit flying out of his mouth as he was saying it in an angry voice, and nobody else in the hallway. So I mean, initially I thought, he'd stop after like a minute, but then as he kept going, that's when I walked over to the civil clerk's room, and they didn't actually have a guard, but when we came back, the courtroom was open, and again, actually out there, the second time he definitely did harass me. It definitely was seriously alarming, but it was worse the first time before I went to the civil clerk's office. And actually, I have, he ended up, like I said, he covered it. He explained it. He actually, in his own words, I have a recording from that day of his interpretation of what happened that morning, where he said he was treating me like an animal. Would you mind if I play a recording real quick? It's 90 seconds.
What's the recording?
It's him talking about the morning of the show cause hearing, and where he says that he was treating me like an animal, and that I don't deserve to be treated like a human, and that he never will treat me like a civil human being. And
where did you get the recording? Him talking to you over the phone or in person?
He does these online shows where he talks to his audience.
Well, this is a complaint for intimidation of a witness.
Yes.
So whatever he said after on his blog.
Well, it's him admitting to intimidating me before the hearing. That's the reason why I think it's relevant, is because I think in here he goes, oh, there he is, the dog killing, woman beater, piece of shit. And he's like, I wanted to say it to his face for so long. And he was, or actually he started by saying, you know, it was wonderful that there was nobody in the hallway because it made it so that I could say whatever I wanted to him.
Okay, if you want to play it, Mr. Waters, go ahead.
Talk about the second thing, right? And that is what I had yesterday, court with Rian, which was even crazier. I talked about it on the live feed, but I can't stop. Oh my goodness. The fact that I just had to give up 2 days of production, running my business for these lunatics, right? One's a lunatic and one's a sociopath, right? Charlotte's the lunatic.
Let me skip a little bit ahead.
Beating.
There we go.
Peace is great. So he said,
sorry.
I saw him down the river. I want to him right now. This is great.
Sorry. I guess I shouldn't have fast forwarded at all.
So I get to the courthouse and I walk in and I see him there. And I'm like, no one, I'm like, I can say whatever I want to him right now. This is great. So I said, I saw him down the hall. I said, there he is. The dog killing, woman beating piece of shit. And it felt so good, guys. It felt so good. Because I wanted to say that to his face for so long. I've said it in writing a million times. He tries walking away. Right? He walked to the other end. He goes, whatever, I'm not going to talk about this. I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did. You fucking killed dogs, dude. And you beat women. And that's all we should say to this guy. That's the only thing that matters about him. I will never treat Rian Waters like an actual contributing member of society. Right? That is deserving of anything except being treated like an animal. Because Rian Waters has no humanity. He is an animal.
Sorry for... and then the only, the last thing, and then I'll end it, is that just on, which I believe is attached to the motion, is on, I mean, even this one, he said that he was going to do a bunch of criminal processes against me or I could just walk away and take the L. Which I understood that he was trying to intimidate me from going to this hearing, which I understand it's a new date, but it was, it was attached to the motion. So I think
it's attached to the motion to open
the show cause hearing. Yeah. And I guess I'll end it on that.
All right. Let me ask you this, Mr. Waters. Does he ever mention the actual hearing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, the day back out in the hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, besides calling you names, did he ever say, you better not testify or drop the charge? Did he ever mention the actual case? Or did he just insult you or whatever things happened, supposedly you did in the past?
Well, he said that he was going to beat my ass and he was going to and he said, I'm going to destroy you tonight too. So
what did you take that to mean?
I mean, I was mind blown. Originally I went onto my phone to start recording, but then a flash came to my head about the illegal wiretapping. I don't know. He said something like the night before. It just made me nervous, so that's the only reason why I didn't record it. But that was actually on my head, was just, I should record this, and then, I don't know. I just didn't know what to do.
But what did you take that to mean by, I'm going to beat your ass in there, and then later on? What did you think he meant?
I don't know. I was intimidated by it. I didn't overly think it.
Okay. And then you came into the courtroom and had a hearing in here.
Yes.
With a different clerk magistrate.
Yeah, and I told her that I needed a few minutes to compose myself after.
Okay.
And even though, and actually, so that's as far as like the effect that it did have on me. Like he ended up mentioning, which is true in the recording, it's like he goes, "Oh, who's your doctor?" And at the time, I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't even think of the place where I go to therapy. And that was just, and I think that was the effect of the witness intimidation. And there was multiple times where while I was arguing, I would just completely forget what I was saying. And again, it's directly related to him harassing me beforehand. And it's the reason why I was so forgetful.
Okay. Did you bring it up that day to the clerk that was sitting here?
I said initially that I needed a few minutes to compose myself, but.
Okay. Yeah. Well, coming to court, I mean, for anyone, it can be stressful. That's normal. And when you're confronting somebody that you have a conflict with. Yeah, I mean, but did he make any overt suggestion that you better drop this case, or?
Well, that's what recently. Recently, he said that.
Where does it say that?
You built the perfect case for me to file a criminal complaint for malicious prosecution. After that, I'll be filing and receiving a restraining order for the threats you sent. Then I'll be coordinating with the Hamden County DA's office to reopen your domestic violence dog murdering case. You will be in jail where criminals like you belong. Or you could just walk away and take the L, your call. Which I understood that as, if I dropped this criminal complaint, then he was not going to work with the DA's office, he wasn't going to file a restraining order, and he wasn't going to file his criminal complaint for malicious prosecution. Or, so to me, it was like either he was going to do all that, or I dropped this hearing. So, I mean, that's pretty direct if you ask me.
We'll take it. Okay. All right. And one more question before I hear from Mr. Kearney. So why did you wait 2 months to file this complaint? Why didn't you just go right downstairs and file it that day, or?
I certainly didn't want to be in the same room as him ever again if I didn't have to be. So it was.
Yeah, here we are because you filed another complaint against him.
Well, exactly. So but at the same time, okay, the initial complaint was also for witness intimidation and perjury. The witness intimidation was a civil case, and that civil case, which that's the statement of facts goes into, is the reason why I didn't present evidence in the case is because of the harassment and just that they threatened to harass anybody else I brought in the case. So that's my issue, is I just want to be fairly heard in that case. So I'm doing whatever the heck I got to do in order to be fairly heard. And the judge in that case, she claimed that she was unable to look into criminal allegations, and that which I now know that she had the inherent power to do something, but at the time I don't know. I thought that the only way to go through it was through the processes I'm doing now.
Okay, Mr. Kearney, did you want to present any evidence?
Yes.
Your words are being recorded, so if you admit anything against yourself, just be aware it's on tape somewhere. But if you want to present evidence, I'll hear from you.
So this has already been litigated twice now. There was an ongoing civil suit that he filed against me that was dismissed in summary judgment by Judge Mulqueen in June. After that, he retaliated by filing a frivolous criminal complaint that was heard 3 months ago in this courtroom, which was found to have no probable cause. And you asked him, why did he wait 2 months? He waited until he lost that one to file another one. He said, when we were here 3 months ago, specifically told the clerk magistrate, it doesn't matter if I'm going to win or lose, I'm going to keep filing this eternally, essentially. So he plans on essentially doing this for eternity, using the courts as a game almost. I live an hour and a half from here. I'm running a business. And he continually drags me out to court by filing these ridiculous, frivolous lawsuits that have absolutely no merit, and these criminal complaints that have no merit. The things that were written in the affidavit, never said. I never threatened him or anything like that. I did mention the dog and the women, and the fact that he beat a woman, and I stand by that because he's been arrested for that. And I have no respect for people that beat women and murder dogs. And I'm free to say that. He's also not threatened. He has been commenting on my Facebook page repeatedly. I've asked him not to, but he shows up time and time again. He showed up, for someone who's allegedly so scared, he shows up on my Facebook page frequently. He sent me an email last week, prior to the civil suit being filed last year. He sent me several emails attempting to extort money out of me in order for him not to file. He specifically said in the emails that if I go through with this, I will win X amount of dollars. So if you pay me this amount, then I won't go through with it. And I've had to hire an attorney for that. This is all just fun for him. He doesn't have to hire a counsel. I've had to before. He doesn't have a job. He has nothing to do. He lives close by. This is just something for him to do. Meanwhile, I live in Holden, Massachusetts, next to Worcester. I'm continually dragged out here. I have 2 kids. I'm trying to run a business. And this man is just using the courts as a way to keep messing with me. And this is malicious. It's intended specifically to damage me and harass me and bother me. And I just want to know when it ends. I mean, he literally said last time, I'm never going to stop. And at what point does this become criminal harassment on his part? Because the things that were written in that affidavit are positively not true.
So when you both were here on September 25th at the prior hearing, did the clerk make a decision that day, or did
No.
Was it she?
She.
Was it? Okay, I think it was Miss Williams. Did she send you something in the mail?
Not me.
Yes. How did you know? Did you know it got denied?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually,
When did that happen?
you know, to be honest, I did say that I was waiting, but I was actually already going to file the criminal complaint. And when I happened to show up in the clerk's office downstairs, they ended up, they said that it was to go. They know me by first name.
And therein lies the problem.
Who knows you by first name? Clerk's office?
Yeah.
And therein lies the problem, Mr. Clerk.
This guy's well known in the court system.
Mr. Clerk, I have no convictions. I've never been charged with a crime. I've never been arrested for a crime. I've never had a judgment against me. The only reason I'm quote-unquote known in the system is because of plaintiffs like him who file ridiculous complaints like this.
Can I counter to his?
Anything else about the facts that we're here for, Mr. Waters, about
Yeah, well,
intimidation of a witness on September 25th? I know you, I'm starting to understand that you both have a long history together with lawsuits and complaints, and, but that day,
yeah, that's okay.
intimidation of a witness.
So then, I was just gonna say, as far as I guess most of mine was just that on the showing that it wasn't frivolous, is that this is the affidavit that was perjury, and these were the emails that he claims that I did extortion. And
So what happened with the case up in the Superior Court? What, you filed a civil suit against?
Yes, and
against Mr. Kearney?
yes, and it's headed to the appeals.
It was dismissed in summary judgment.
And the reason,
What was it for? What were you alleging?
defamation.
It got dismissed in summary judgment. What, based on First Amendment?
No,
A
actually,
number of issues. The judge found in her ruling, she specifically said that she believed that the statements, the allegations,
That you put on the block.
yes, were all factual, that they were backed up by veterinarians' reports, by police reports, and that the First Amendment protects us, and that free speech on the internet is essential.
I was actually representing myself, so I get a lot more familiar
Well,
with
why
the
do you
details.
think it got dismissed, Mr. Waters?
Well, on count 6, she said, and the count 5 is she said that it was solely because his LLC protects him from
Personal liability.
Yes, but I had in my opposition brief, I had cited a Supreme Court case which they said that the articles of or limited liability do not protect people from their individual liability as an operator. So, and the thing is he wrote a book. He was the one that said the statements online. And,
and the Superior Court judge found that he's allowed to do that. Calling people names and making fun of them isn't a crime. He's got
I mean, okay, I ended up, real quick, one second.
That's not on my pay grade. I'm just here for what happened on September 25th, Mr. Waters. So I just wanted just the history. So you got in trouble for some criminal acts, and I
got accused of.
Arrested.
Okay. And then he blogged about it. You sued him up in Superior Court. You lost. And then you filed the first complaint back in September, alleging that he intimidated you up in the Superior Court civil case, and then that got thrown out. And now we're here saying he intimidated you on the day you were here for the intimidation.
Actually, slightly off. The judge said, she said there was solid evidence that he did do witness intimidation, and she said that she was not willing, she said that she could not look at any of it. So she told me to go to the police. I told her that the Palmer police lied and did a bunch of corruption towards me. So she told me I should go to the state police. I went to the state police, then I went to the East Long Meadow police, then I went to the Springfield police, and then they ended up, the state police, I guess actually, they told me that I should file a private complaint. They said, you have plenty of evidence, and they go, you should just do it yourself. And they recognize he's got a close relationship with the police, which makes it really tough working with them. So the state police expected that none of the other police were going to help me. So that was actually, and I initially filed in Palmer, but Palmer did not, they weren't following any of the procedures. They didn't even let me, they said that I was unable to do any oral evidence, and they were just extremely rude. So I didn't actually expect, and they said that it would take 6 weeks, for them to make it, to issue a hearing date, which I think was just a waste time. So that was the actual, as I was waiting the 6 weeks for the time to expel, and that's the reason why the criminal got pushed back. So it wasn't that I was waiting for the case to end and then I filed the criminal complaint. It's just I was continually doing whatever I could to be fairly heard, and it's just the date ended up on that date.
Okay. So the elements of intimidation of a witness are that a person directly or indirectly threatened, attempted to cause physical injury, misled, intimidated, or harassed another person who was a witness or a potential witness in a trial or any kind of criminal proceeding. That the defendant did so willfully with the specific intent to impede, obstruct, delay, or otherwise interfere with a criminal investigation, grand jury proceeding, or criminal proceeding. So those are the elements of intimidation of a witness. So on the day that Mr. Kearney and you allegedly were in the hallway before the hearing, I don't find that calling someone a bitch boy, dog killing, woman beater, piece of SHIT was in any way to intimidate you from not going forward with your complaint. Okay, I don't find that you're intimidated, Mr. Waters. I find that you are not. You just don't like the things Mr. Kearney says about you, and that it doesn't meet the elements of intimidation of a witness. So eventually, Mr. Waters, you got to just let this saga end and stop filing criminal complaints. He lives in Worcester County. You live here. You have no reason to see each other. You have no reason to interact with him. So I don't know how these are criminal matters. If there's civil issues, that's different. Mr. Kearney, I'll just say this. You may have some First Amendment rights on the blog, but just going forward, when you see people in person, you don't have as quite the protection in First Amendment rights. Mm-hmm. Words, there's fighting words and things like that you kind of lose your First Amendment protection. But written words, you have a little bit more. So I'm not going to issue a criminal complaint, Mr. Kearney. Mr. Waters, it just doesn't rise to the level. I understand you don't like my decision. You're raising your hand. I understand that. But it doesn't meet the elements of intimidation of a witness. He never mentioned the case that day. He called you names. Calling someone names is not a criminal offense. So
he's screaming at me in the hallway. He's spit, and also it's seriously alarming. How is that not seriously alarming? That's harassment. It ends up.
It doesn't.
Intimidation of witness includes harassment, and that
it has to be in furtherance of obstructing or intimidating a person to not go through with a criminal proceeding. He called the names out in the hallway. If we had criminal complaints for every time that happens in these hearings, people call each other names out there, and the hearing went forward. You had your hearing, and you were heard. He was heard, and the case didn't go anywhere. It just doesn't rise to the level of intimidation of a witness. Maybe it's something else. I don't know, but it's not intimidation of a witness, Mr. Waters. Okay, so no probable cause will issue. Okay, gentlemen, hopefully we don't have to see you back here.
Well, I mean, he's going to do it again. What happens then?
I'm doing a redecision, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, what does this ever end, or is he just going to keep doing this forever?
I don't know, Mr. Kearney. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you just
I want nothing more for
go
this
back
to
to Worcester, and if you don't see him, nothing else can happen here. I don't know.
I never see him.
If you're not in Springfield or in Camden
I want nothing
County.
more than to be left alone.
Well, the reason, one more thing, I guess, is like the reason, he said that I was commenting. The reason why I was commenting is because he was harassing me. On a weekly basis, he posts something, and he harasses me on a weekly basis. And so that was the reason, the only times I commented was when he was harassing me. So it's just, so obviously I'm not, and he also, I guess I didn't get into it on this one, but he said that he was intentionally preventing me from working. So that's the thing, is I can't work because of him. So the thing is I'm going to commit suicide in 2 months if I don't figure out something. But yes, I'll go to get a redecision started, and sorry, have a wonderful day.
Okay. All right, Mr. Waters. Good luck.